JJ the CPA, hope you're doing well. I've got a video series, comes out every Friday at noon CDT, and it's really kind of meant from CPA to CPA, CPA to EA, CPA to a tax pro. And what I wanted to talk about today is what lane are you going to stay in related to PPP? But hang on a second, it might be different than what you think. You know, when you look at the PPP Forgiveness Application that came out recently, you know, when you look at it, a lot of it is preparing it. And I have talked a lot about, you know, I'm going to stay in my lane related to PPP, but, you know, where I want to stay in my lane is related to interpretations in the sense of giving my clients professional assurances that this does qualify, this doesn't. This is how the FTE works, and probably even one step beyond that, not giving my clients any sense of, well, if you do it this way, it's forgiven. Definitely, I'm not for working with my client to find ways to achieve full forgiveness from the standpoint of, we'll give that person a raise and then, you know, send them on PUA and then bring on your spouse and then hire your kid, you know, that kind of stuff. That's just me. You know, you do whatever it is that you feel comfortable with. But the preparation part of the PPP application, you know, are you going to get involved with that? You know, I've already had a few clients asking me, and you know, really until last night, I was like, you know what, I'm not going to have anything to do with the PPP forgiveness part of things. And I still will maintain 100% with my clients that I am not going to get into interpretations. But in terms of preparing the return, scratch that, see, preparing the application, you know, in a lot of ways it could be similar. So hang with me here. It could be similar to preparing a tax return. But the only reason I'm bringing it up today is that if you do feel like, you know what, I do want to help my clients through the PPP. So I've got some other videos just for this group that I've put out in previous, and I have a playlist that has there's a link in the body of this to the playlist. So I do think that there's a completely separate lane that you need to consider if you're going to be in related to interpretations that your client's going to rely on, that your client's going to come to you later and say, what gives? Because you told me I could do this and now it's not forgiven. You said if I didn't do this, that it would lead to forgiveness. I'm not getting in that lane. You know, it's, well, you need to check with your bank, right? But the preparation side, I might be a different lane, maybe. I don't know. But here's the point of the whole video. Then think about how you're going to approach that service and do it right now. Like literally right now, you know, come up with the engagement letter, come up with your scope of what this is, you know, and then at least for me in my engagement letters, you know, I indicate, you know, I'm not verifying your information. It's up to you for the accuracy and the completeness. Here's a list of what I need, and I'm going to assume what you've provided to me meets the qualifications, you know, of Code Section 162 in tax work, and I put in the language of 162. And so think through that if you're going to prepare the returns, by golly, have an engagement letter for it. Come up with an engagement letter. It then tells the client, here's what I'm doing and I'm not doing. Here's what your responsibilities are, client. Here's what my responsibilities are. And that can be, I'm taking no responsibility for any of this other than the accuracy of the math that I'm going to do on this form. You're going to give me the information. Now, you may give them a wonderful, complete checklist of here's the payroll forms that I need, here's the bank statements, here's the receipts, you need all that. But at least for me, I'm not going to even say, so this list is going to be all that you could ever need, because you know as well as I do, SBA's changing this all the time. But at least I'd have a checklist, and then I would reference a checklist in my engagement letter if I decide to do this. I still really don't know. But you're at least telling your client, here's the information I need, and then the information that you've given me is what I'm going to use to prepare this. So in essence, it's just you're preparing the form. And then if I'm you, I would come up with 1 or 2 flat rates for that. Okay. And the reason, hear me on this, because we hear flat rate and then we immediately go, whoa, but what if it takes more time? The reason to come up with your flat rate is that if a client gives you a bunch of crap records, then you need to hand them back to them. This would be how I would work. Because when I define my scope, and for me, it's like, well, are they self-employed? You know, like a solo employee S Corp? Are they self-employed? That might be one rate. And then if they have more than one employee, I'm going to have this rate. And it might even be, you know, if you have more than 5 employees, it's this rate. The reason is that you're defining how much time you are going to spend on it. And then get paid in advance, because here's the reason for the flat rate. It allows you to put a time limit in the sense of if you're getting crap, you know what to hand back. But here's the other reason that you need a flat rate. And if you don't do this part, if you prepare the PPP application and you don't do this part, I think you'll be sorry. And here's what it is. 100% of the time get paid in advance. I don't care if you never do that with your clients. I don't care if it's the client that pays you within a week or 2 days. Okay, unless you have a credit card on file, but get paid in advance, because that client's going to tie the success of that application to whether or not it's forgiveness. They're going to tie, just the way they do, results. So for me, if I do this, here's my rate and I need paid in advance, period, the end. And if a client's question is like, well, I never pay you in advance. Yeah, well, guess what? I never done a PPP before for you, in the sense of I'm never doing one again for you. It's never, I doubt this ever exists again. So this is a different service. So in some ways you're differentiating in that client's mind. It's a different service. And don't kid yourself, you're taking on massive liability, in my opinion. Massive. But when you do a tax return, you take on massive liability too, right? Right? It's not anything that we're scared of. But you're not dealing with the IRS. You're dealing with the SBA. You're dealing with the banks. You're dealing with U.S. Treasury. Okay? They're going to review it. There's going to be random audits. So the reason I also have a scope on that, if I'm doing it, my scope's going to be, it's just a fee to prep. If your bank has questions, it's going to be up to you, client. If they need more additional documentation, it's going to be up to you, client. And then putting in there enough language for them to understand the SBA is changing this. This would be based on this, you know, doing services at this time, based on the SBA at this time, you know, all that stuff. So the point of the whole video is, you know, if you're going to do the preparation, I think it can be a separate lane than interpreting how you achieve forgiveness. Because you know, you can tell a client, well, to achieve forgiveness, you got to fill this out. To achieve forgiveness, you have to have a 941 if you have employees. To achieve forgiveness, you need to provide these receipts, go to page, you know, I think it's 10 on the application for the documents that you need. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about interpretations to tell your client, you know, well, if you do ABC, you're going to achieve forgiveness. I understand there's a fine line, because I'm telling clients, well, I mean, I think you spend it on payroll. You spend it on the payroll that you've always spent. You don't let anybody go on PUA once you get the PPP. If they were on it, they need to come off of it. So don't get me wrong, I'm giving some general, right? But in terms of defining, here's steps to take, I think that's where I'm not going anywhere near with 10-foot pole. And then if it's, well, can I do this with this employee? And you need to talk to your bank. But in the preparation, make a decision here quick if you're going to be involved with it, and then come up with that engagement letter, come up with what you want to charge for that, get paid in advance. And then, you know, part of that engagement letter is also you're putting an end to it. You know, my services end when you submit that to the bank. So if you do the prep, you know, then do it right. And then be qualified in it, right? Because we know that we're required to be qualified. And of course, you may think, well, of course I am. But like really be qualified in it then. You know, look for courses to take on it. Really read, come up with procedures. And okay, well, when we get it, we make sure we have these documents. Maybe there's a software coming out and have to go through some training on that. But then really make sure you're qualified. And you will be, right? If you decide you're going to get qualified in something, then you will be. All I'm saying is just remember to take those steps. The same way when QBI came out, right? Well, what is QBI so that I know what to do when I'm preparing the return? So you know all these things. It's just a reminder that it is a separate service from what you do normally. And then if you decide to do it, I charge a premium, please. You need to charge a premium because there's liability. There's going to be questions around it. It's going to be minorly rocky. You're going to have follow-up. And, if they update something, you're going to have to go back and potentially update what you did. Look at the PPP, the applications to just qualify for PPP and how many times it's changed in the different SBA regulations. And so even just the applications to get it, something else changed, something else changed, something else changed. So you may have that, and you may be wanting to put in your engagement letter that if the SBA changes and I have to do any updates, there'll be an additional fee for that. If your bank has questions and I have to, explain something, there's going to be additional fees for that. And, in my engagement letter, I put, this is fees to prepare the tax return. If you have an inquiry of any kind, it'll be additional fees. I put down when the statute of limitations run. So anyways, if you go the preparation route, then really go that route all in the way you would absolutely provide any other service to your client. All right. Hey, thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I've got a lot of videos related to PPP and, I've got one that's about numbers. I've got a daily motivational one kind of for small business owners called Group 300. I've got a weekly one on Wednesdays. It's just kind of a different way to think about numbers. So I'm honored that you have listened and that you're tuning in. I'd love it if you'd subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you made it to here, you probably are going to do the preparation. I bet you're thinking that. So if you go for it, charge enough, protect yourself. You're also protecting your client. Think through the list and then go at it 110% if you are. All right, hey, have a great day. Thanks so much. JJ the CPA out.